So welcome everybody to week number 4 of our Exploring Core Applications on the BrailleSense 6 from Sight and Sound Technology. My name is Stuart Lawler, delighted to be back with you for our 4th and final week. And thank you to people who've been popping along during the last couple of weeks. We've been exploring email, and we've been exploring the word processor. And of course, way back in week 1, we explored the file manager. Today, we're going to talk about the Daisy Reader in just a moment, but I'm also delighted today that we have Jenny Axler from HIMS or Selvus in Korea, who of course are the people who make this technology. And Jenny leads out on all the new great features that we see regularly in our BrailleSense devices, BrailleSense Polaris and BrailleSense 6 devices. And it's very early in the morning for Jenny, so I really appreciate her taking the time to join us today to help with the session. And I'm sure she will be happy to answer some questions as well. So Jenny, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I always appreciate being here, and I appreciate all of these trainings that you guys have done. We really appreciate the support that you are giving to our users.
Yeah, well, we're delighted to do it. I'm just admitting someone from the waiting room. So Jenny, we're going to talk about the Daisy player in a sec. And you and I were chatting before this session started about how we both use the Daisy player in a slightly different way. And we were talking about whether people use the media keys or don't use the media keys. So do you want to just talk maybe by way of intro a little bit about the media keys and why you love them?
Sure. So I was actually surprised that he said that he didn't use the media keys. It was interesting because that was the first way that I learned how to use the media player, the Daisy player. When they trained me, this was one of the things that they focused on. And I think part of it is habit. So there's no wrong way to do it. We have both methods for that reason, depending on, he said the reason that he doesn't use them is that he prefers not to take his hands off the Braille keyboard. Now, in my case, I don't really do that, especially on the Mini. I can still, because I can reach it with my thumbs very easily and still leave my hands on the Braille keyboard as it happens. But for me, I just think it's so easy to be able to use the record button to change levels and the back and forward keys then to navigate. It's just, and of course, play and pause. It's extremely intuitive for me, I think. And I also like the fact that you can, especially if you're reading an audiobook, you can control it in the background. So for example, if you're reading a textbook and you want to take notes on it, you can actually do that. I don't think you can do that anymore with TTS because the TTS can't be duplicated. But if you're reading an audiobook, in the same way if you're playing media or listening to an MP3 book, it's so intuitive, at least for me, to be able to operate in both tasks at once, to be able to use the media buttons to control one while I use the Braille keyboard to control the other. So these are the reasons that I like it. But again, we have both methods for the reason that we want people to have both options.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, and I tend to, I have tended not to use them. And it's funny, we were chatting to a couple of students lately and I was chatting to a teacher and we were all of the opinion that we wanted to keep our hands on the Braille keyboard. But I do take Jenny's point, and I hadn't thought about the scenario of being able to listen and control playback whilst you're in another application. So definitely there's a use case there. So while Jenny was chatting, I've set up my screen share on my Polaris, and hopefully you guys can hear this.
File manager.
Hopefully it's not too loud. If it is, Jenny, please.
Nope, you're
feel free
good
to holler. Okay.
I think it's good.
So, and again, for anybody who is actually watching visually or who is looking at this later on YouTube or on our replay services, then you'll be able to see the screen as well. So the Daisy player is in the Books menu, which we can get to shortcut key by pressing K.
Daisy player.
And we'll press enter on Daisy player. Now, in advance of this session today, I've downloaded some Daisy books and I've put them into the Daisy folder for convenience. And I gave each book its own folder within the Daisy folder. One of them is an audiobook from the RNIB reading services in the UK, and one is a textbook from Bookshare. So they're typically the two type of books you might read, although there are textbooks with audio as well, where the audio and text will sync. I don't have that type of book, but you can get that as well. So let's open the Daisy player by pressing enter.
Open Daisy dialog. The Devil's Alternative folder to list item.
So the first thing that happens when you go to the Daisy player is you're brought to the list of folders where your books are stored. In this case, it's looking in the Daisy folder because that's where I was last time. But if your books are somewhere else, you could backspace and navigate around to find the folder where your books are stored. Accessing the folders here is slightly different to other applications because you have to select an entire folder, not a file, to open a Daisy book. That's because the book itself contains many files to do all sorts of things. So I'm going to up arrow once.
Rogue Lawyer Reading Services user 104,000.
So this is the one I want. I want Rogue Lawyer by John Grisham. I'm going to hit the space bar.
Selected Rogue Lawyer Reading Services.
And I've just stopped the speech. So now the folder has been highlighted or selected, and I'm going to press the enter key.
Rogue Lawyer 7100.
Rogue
Multi-line
Lawyer
edit
by
box.
John Grisham. The copy of this book is produced by RNIB.
Pause.
I'm just going to hit the space bar there. So immediately what happened was Rogue Lawyer opened and started to read. Now, I can just let me tab around here on the Daisy player main screen if you like. So we can press F3, or if you prefer to keep your hands on the keyboard, you can press space with dot 4 and 5 to tab along.
Level 1.
So this is the level I have.
Level 1 static box.
This is the level by which I'm browsing at the moment.
Play button.
This is the play button,
Pause button.
the pause button,
Level 1.
and we're back to level 1. So if I press enter
Pause button.
or indeed space, we'll continue playing,
Play.
Charity.
and I can press pause
RNIB.
again
Pause.
to stop. So that's my very basic play. Now, if I was to use Jenny's method, we would make sure that the 3-position switch, which is the second switch from the left, is in the middle position for Daisy. So I'm going to flick that now.
Daisy mode.
And
Pause
now,
button.
and now I can use Jenny's media keys on the front of the machine. And from left to right, there's Jenny, feel free to jump in if I get these wrong, because I use them so infrequently. Rewind, play, stop, record, and fast forward. Is that correct? Not sure if Jenny is on mute, but we can use the media keys as well if you wish. So let me go into let's start exploring the menu of the Daisy player to see what's here. We'll press F2.
File pull down menu.
And here's the file menu. Let's press enter.
Open Daisy dialog, enter O menu item.
So here's where you would enter an O to open a new Daisy book if you wanted, and that would bring you back to that folder list that we saw just a moment ago.
Voice settings dialog, enter S menu item.
So this is voice settings to configure settings for books that have a TTS as part of them. So this book doesn't have that. It has a human voice narrating, but books that are Daisy books where they have used a TTS, you can set the voice settings in this dialog.
Book info dialog, enter I menu item.
This gives you some book info, so let's press enter here so that you can hear what happens.
Book info dialog. Total time 11:20:32 static box. Read time 8 seconds static box.
So I'm just pressing space with dot 4. The total info, the read time, which is I've only listened to 8 seconds of the book.
Remaining time 11 hours 20 minutes 23 seconds static box.
So you get the idea of that. I'll just do a Z chord to exit.
Pause button.
I'll go back to my file
File
manager.
pull, open, book info dialog, exit space E menu
And that's
item.
the exit option. So that's the only other thing that's in the file menu. Let's exit the file menu
Cancel. Pause button.
and go to
File pull, document pull, mark pull down,
our
document pull
menu.
down
So this is
menu.
where you manipulate the Daisy file itself. So let's press enter here.
Play pause space menu item.
This is play pause, what we've been doing a moment ago.
Previous page space dots 1, 2, 6 menu item.
So this is for navigating by pages. Again, more useful on textbooks, DAISY textbooks, and we'll see that in a sec.
Next page space dots 3, 4, 5 menu
Space
item.
with 3, 4, 5 for next page.
Go to page dialog, enter G menu item.
Again, you can go to a page. This book doesn't have that level of granularity, so page numbers aren't marked up in this book because it is a DAISY audiobook, but for textbooks, you can type in a page number to go to and press enter.
Go to percent dialog, enter E menu item.
Or you can go to a percentage of time in the book.
Go to time dialog, backspace T menu item.
Or a particular time. So if you want to go 5 hours, 10 minutes into the book, you can do that. It's also worth saying, of course, that the DAISY player will pick up from your last position. So if you close the DAISY player and you were listening to something and you open again, it will continue from your last position. And of course, you can also create bookmarks, which we'll come to in a sec.
Move backward by selected unit. 3 menu item.
Okay, so this is to move backward by selected unit, and you can select the unit of movement, and we'll come to that in a sec.
Move forward by selected unit. 6 menu item.
And this is the move forward by selected unit.
Change to previous movement unit. 2-3 menu item.
Change to previous movement unit.
Change to next movement unit. 5-6 menu item.
And change to next movement unit. So there are different movement units in a DAISY book.
Play pause space menu item. Cancel. Pause button.
I'm going to go back to the menu.
File mark pull down menu.
And I'm going to go to the mark menu. So the mark menu is very similar to what we saw when we were looking at the word processor last week. The idea to be able to make marks that will jump you throughout points in the file and move you back and forward and easily find a particular point in the file.
Heading pull down mark set mark dialog, enter M menu item.
Enter an M will set a bookmark, a mark in the current file.
Jump to mark, enter J menu item.
Jump to mark, enter in J, so you can jump to whichever mark you want.
Delete mark space D menu item.
And delete mark. It's worth saying as well that you'll notice in your folder where your book exists, there will be a new folder called mark will be created. And inside there, your bookmarks or marks that you create in the DAISY player will be saved.
Set mark dialog, enter M menu item. Cancel.
Okay.
Pause button.
I'm going to go to
mark pull down menu. Heading pull down menu.
And I'm going to go to heading. So let's go in here.
Heading list, enter H menu item.
So this gives you the great thing about DAISY books is their level of navigability, if that's a word. And headings are a key component of that. And if you use the web, and I think most people here will be familiar with the concept of headings and subheadings. So heading levels 1 would be the main heading areas or main sections, for example, in a textbook, and headings level 2s would be subsections of heading 1, and heading 3 further subsections of heading 2, etc.
Scan heading, enter N menu item.
Scan headings.
Read heading, enter W menu item.
Read heading.
First heading space dots 1-3 menu item.
And then you can jump back to the first heading.
Last heading space dots 4-6 menu
or jump
item.
Down to the last heading.
Find dialog space F menu item.
And then there's the find dialog for finding again in a textbook. So lots of these will be more relevant in a text DAISY book rather than an audio book. Now I'm going to show you the other thing I want to flag is creating memos or notes. Again, probably relevant, particularly relevant for people who are studying and reading DAISY books and want to be able to make some quick notes. So if you are at a particular point in the DAISY book, you might want to make some quick notes about something that you're listening to. So let's actually do this in real time. Let's come out of this book, or let's come out of the menu rather.
Pause button.
Press the play button.
Play. Beginning or end of book. Heading. 5 phrases.
Sorry.
Heading.
So I was checking there
Pause.
what my jump was by, and it's currently jumping by headings. Now, I'm not sure how this book has been marked up, this audiobook. We'll find out in a minute. So I'm going to hit the space bar and I'm going to press .6, and .6 will move me forward heading by heading in the book. So let's see what happens.
Play.
Read by Mark Deakins. Here's a brief
I'm
description of
pressing
the book.
.6.
This book has a title page. This is a data recording and has 2 levels
Pause.
This is all the introduction. In fact, it's telling me about this now.
Play.
of navigation. Level 1 navigates to the title page and the start of each part. Level 2 navigates to the start of each chapter.
Okay, so I'm
This
going to
book was
press
published
level
in
1. I'm going to press heading
2015 by
again.
Rogue Lawyer by John Grisham. Part 1. Contempt. Chapter 1.
So I've
Pause.
just put a pause at just after chapter 1. And I'm going to create a memo. I'm going to put a memo in here to say, read this chapter carefully. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my menu.
File pull-down menu.
And I'm going to go over to memo.
Heading pull-down. Memo pull-down
I'm
menu.
going to press enter.
Memo dialog backspace and menu item.
And backspace M is the shortcut key to create a memo. There's 2 reasons, and I think we've said this earlier on during these sessions. There's 2 reasons we tend to go through the menus. A, it's good that you know where these things are, and B, there is no way I remember all these shortcut keys all the time. So let's press enter.
Memo dialog. Enter memo. Multi-line edit box.
So this is a multi-line edit box. So you can write quite a bit of text. It's not just a matter of writing something and pressing enter, but I'm just going to put here, read this chapter
Read this chapter
carefully.
carefully.
And I'm going to hit the tab key
Confirm button.
and press confirm.
Pause button.
Now I'm going to press play again.
Play.
My name is Sebastian Rudd.
And now I'm going to press
And though I am a
.6,
well-known... Chapter 2.
and
At 8 a.m., partner knocks on my door.
Pause.
I'm going to put a pause after there. Partner knocks on my door, and I'm going to press enter another memo with enter an M.
Set mark dialog.
No, sorry.
Enter. Pause button.
There was me trying
File
to
heading pull down
remove
menu.
keystrokes.
Memo pull down menu. Memo dialog backspace and menu item.
Backspace M, okay.
Memo dialog.
So
Enter memo. Multi.
so it mentioned that he knocks on the door. I'm going to say on which door
On which door
did he
did
knock?
he? Confirm
I'm gonna
button.
confirm that.
Pause button.
Now let's press the play button again.
Play.
It's time to go. We say our good mornings and climb into my
And hit the
vehicle,
space
which
bar.
is...
Pause.
And I'm going to press backspace and P to read the previous memo.
Level
It's
2
time to go.
multi-line edit box.
We say our good mornings and climb into my vehicle, which is a
Blank. Blank. Were they really that?
They were good neighbors.
That must have been an On which door did he knock?
It's time to go.
So it's
Pause.
just read, I think I didn't press the backspace and P properly. So it's just read the memo on which door did he knock. If I press backspace and P again,
Read this chapter. Level 2
Chapter
multi-line edit box.
now it says
Pause.
read this chapter, and it's brought me back to the beginning of chapter 1, and my memo was put at that point in the text saying read this chapter. So I think memos are really handy, and it's something that I've shown to a few students lately. For people who are using DAISY books for studying, in particular, you're probably not going to use them as much for you're probably not going to use them as much when you're listening to a book like this, which is a leisure text. Okay, we've just explored a little bit of audio. I'm going to suggest, let me do the text first, and then we'll open it up for questions and any discussion that people have. So we mentioned a little while ago that Enter and O, which is a keystroke we've seen in the word processor last week, is also the keystroke to open a new DAISY book.
Open DAISY dialog. Rogue Lawyer Reading Services user.
So I want to go to the next option.
The Devil's Alternative folder 2.
So this is the book, The Devil's Alternative by Frederick Forsyth, and it's a DAISY textbook. So I'm going to hit the space bar here.
Selected the Devil's Alternative folder 2 to list item.
Press enter.
The Devil's Alternative. Set 100. Notice. Note. Frederick Forsyth has, Richmond Times to Forsyth Canton, Fort Worth. Pause.
I'm going to just press, I'm just stopping speech there. Now, this is a text, a DAISY textbook, so I can press,
Notice.
I've
Frederick
pressed
Forsyth.
space
Pause.
1, 2, and 3 to get to the top of the file. But I can do some additional things here that I wasn't able to do on the last file. So for example, I can find something. I can find a particular word or phrase. So let's try and see, can we go straight to chapter 6? So I'll press space and F.
Find dialog.
And I'll type
Search
chapter.
term edit box.
Now, I'm not actually sure if it's written. Let's try chapter 6.
Searching. No more phrases found. Pause
Okay.
button.
I think that may be because I had written the chapter string incorrectly. So let me find, there's a character in this book called Adam. So let's look for the name Adam.
Frederick. Find dialog.
And type
Search
Adam.
term chapter 6 edit box. ADA.
And press enter.
Searching. Adam Monroe's course in tradecraft was popular, not the least because it broke the wearisome routine of enciphering and deciphering. Pause.
So we're now on the, we've come to the first search result of Adam, and it starts to read here. I can also browse with my headings. So currently I'm set to heading 1, but I can use dots 5 and 6 to move forward.
Beginning or end of book.
By a different unit.
Level 1. Level 2. Page.
So this book, as you can see, has some more granularity in it than the audiobook did. So now we can move page by page. And now that I've set my granularity or my navigation movement to be page, I can press dot 6 to move forward.
Deciphering. He had his class's attention, and he knew it. Right, said Monroe that morning in the last week
And
of
now
the
I'm
pause.
pressing dot 6 to continue going forward. And if I press dots 5 and 6,
phrase.
I've changed to phrase.
5 phrases. Heading.
Or 5 phrases. Now, if I go to heading 1, this is going to be marking up every chapter.
2. While Adam Monroe was changing trains at 3, the Polish Airlines twin jet dipped a wing. 4. Adam Monroe sat in a locked room in the main building of the pause.
So you can see that I can move very quickly through a Daisy book. You can also go to a particular page by pressing Enter and G.
Go to page dialog.
Now, interestingly, in this Daisy book, I don't think they've marked pages properly because we're down on chapter 4, I think now. So we should be a little bit into the book. If I try and go to page number 5 to bring us back.
Invalid page.
Yeah,
Move to page number.
I don't think
Edit
page numbers have been marked properly in this book, but if they were,
pause button.
Then we'd be able to navigate and jump to a particular page. Right, I'm going to open this for questions. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And I'm going to switch on the enable anyone here who wants to unmute themselves that you can. And anyone who wants to ask questions can do so. So anybody who wants to ask a question now should be able to unmute. And of course, you can also type questions into chat if you want by pressing Alt and H. And Jenny, if there's anything additionally that you want to say about the Daisy player, please feel free.
Not really about the Daisy player, but we did mention talking a bit about the document reader as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not really going to demo this, but we just wanted to mention that for non-Daisy books, and a lot of textbooks in Europe are now using docs and EPUB and various other things, we offer the document reader that gives you a similar experience as the Daisy player. Actually, it's sort of a combination of the word processor and Daisy player experience, but it's a read-only environment. You do have heading navigation for EPUB, HTML, and docx files, and you're able to, again, sort of parallel the same experience for books that are not Daisy books that you might need for study or professional work.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about the Daisy player in schools, especially with kids, is that sometimes people can accidentally, change something in a book if they're opening it in the word processor. So that does eliminate that.
Yes.
If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself at this time. Or you can type in the chat if you prefer.
It's a
Jenny.
quiet bunch.
Quiet-
Yes,
I think we have somebody.
Yes,
that's Shirley.
I have a question. Yeah, I got a quick question about the document reader and a comment as well. I've been using it recently, and what I want to know is that I know if you want to close it and kind of mark the place you are, you can close it like with a Z cord, and there's another way that you can close it with a Z cord backspace if you don't want to save the markers and so on and so forth. I guess my main question about that is if I'm going back and forth between two books with like the Enter R, and it's going to let me choose which book it is I want to look at. If I want to close a document and save my place that's in that document reader, do I have to do it from each book separately? In other words, close it and then read the other book and then close it where I want it to be? Or can I just hit the Z cord and close the document reader and it'll save the
It should
places
save
in
anything you
two
have
books?
open. Z cord should save anything you have open. If it's not, let us know, but it should be. I guess I haven't tested it
Okay.
with multiples. I don't know why. I just never thought about doing that. But it should
Well,
do
the
it.
other
It should.
thing, I'm sorry. Okay.
The
other
no,
thing
the reason I was
wanted
going to say that is because it's supposed to create the marks on space Z. So when you press space Z, that's when the mark creation happens. So it should happen with anything that's
Okay.
open.
Okay. I'm not sure that it does, but I'll play with it again and make sure. But the other thing I'm noticing, sometimes it does weird stuff with punctuation marks. It'll take like a period, depending on where it's placed or how it's placed, and sometimes it translates it into a double D. I've noticed some strange, quirky little translations at times with things when I'm using that document reader.
Okay, in that case, I would say send the sample files and the explanation of where the problem is to tech support, and we should be able to
Okay.
fix that. But those are usually pretty easy to handle. So
Okay.
if you let us know, we can generally fix them.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. I just see Jane has her hand raised as well. So Jane, I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself. I think you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, we have you.
Here we go. Yay, and this is on my brand new BrailleSense 6, so I'm excited. So I really do like the Daisy player, and years ago, I came from the U2, and there was this lovely integration with the we call it the, what is it, Braille audio reading, the BARD service, the National Library Service service. I know that, and I have the app. You can download the app, but I do miss that integration. Is there perhaps?
Unfortunately not, and that's more on the NLS side, because they have created the app and it works for Android devices. They don't do the administration of the keys anymore. So it's something I know we all miss that. It was much easier to deal with, and I understand that, but it's just something they don't do it on the competitor device either. It's because there is the Android app now available. They kind of prefer that you go that route. The thing I would say, the best way you can make that easier is to remember first letter nav. I mean, as far as like your play, pause, rewind buttons, that's the easiest way to deal with it, is to use your first letter nav when you're in the app. But I do understand it's not as easy as we had the search and download, and then you could play them in our Daisy player, but you remember that you had to register and download the keys and all of that, and they just really don't do that anymore unless it's just not possible to do it any other way.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Thanks for your question. And thank you, Shirley. And last chance to see if there's anybody who has any questions. Small group, I think one person got disconnected from us. If not, I'm going to thank everybody for coming along and thank people for joining us over the last 4 weeks. We want to do more of these sessions in the future, so watch this space. Needless to say, as we always say, if there are things people would like from sessions like this, if there are areas you'd like to see us cover, we went into the basics apps because we've got some feedback from people who said they would like that. But if there are other things, please do contact us. And Jenny, as always, thank you for giving us your time so very early in the morning for you.
Sure, not a problem.
So thanks, everybody. Take care, and we will speak to you all from Sight and Sound Technology again very soon.